Okay, let me start with a quote from the OECD. They celebrate their 60th year this year, and they also have a subdivision for education. So here goes. The pandemic has reinforced the notion that learning is not a transactional experience, but a relational and social experience. End quote. By Mr. Anneke Schreuder, the Director for Education and Skills at OECD. Now, as someone who has been working with students with learning disabilities for the past decade, I've seen the benefits and advantages of working on education as relating to someone. From working directly with students and working with a variety of teachers, counselors and tutors, to eventually teaching teachers on how to work with students who struggle in math. Now, certainly, math is not usually seen as a topic that encourages dialogue or cooperation, creativity or relation, let alone fun. Nevertheless, math has all that potential. Hi, I'm Dr. Anneke Schreuder. Math is my passion, and awareness, communication, research and remediation of dyscalculia is my mission. As I mentioned, the traditional way to teach math is by providing the raw algorithms to solve math problems, practice a number of the same type of calculations, and then rate the students on the number of questions they get right or wrong. Now, this actually has been a disservice to most students, but mostly to those students who have a learning disability, and through the failing approaches to provide education have now developed math anxiety, or even generalized anxiety, with all social consequences you probably are already well aware of. Yet, without wanting to turn this into a statistics-driven approach, there are reasons that approximately 80% of our present population has a learning disability. We owe it to the weakest in our groups, the groups that we are responsible for teach and develop, that we educate them to make sure that they are all treated with equity, not equality. We don't need to provide them always the same. Instead, we should not be shy about making significant differences in how we support students, so that the outcome for all is positive. Still, until today, I see too many schools where they only measure the input and desperately want that to be exactly the same for all, because they shy away from pointing out that it is okay to make differences as long as they are based on solid research-supported grounds. Now, this is not the place nor the forum to go into a discussion about the content of the math curriculum taught in schools in the United States. But you may wonder why we teach children to solve problems in a way they don't really understand, by teaching them tricks and shortcuts, while the problems themselves are not even clear to them. If you cannot come up with a practical application for the multiplication of two polynomials, you need to wonder why we insist the children get this taught, and how it makes sense that the way they're able to apply a solution they do not comprehend about the problem they do not recognize in their daily life actually in the end gives them a rating that colleges will look at to determine their access to further academics. But again, this is not the time, place or forum to dive into this, and luckily we do see changes here and there. Today I want to show you some easy to implement changes that encourage dialogue in the classroom, between stakeholders in the teacher's lounge, and in cooperation with the parents at home. Now, you may all be familiar with the learning pyramid. The learning pyramid model was developed by the National Training Laboratory. It shows what types of teaching and learning are most likely to be retained. And these methods include, as you can see here, lecture, reading, audiovisual, demonstration, discussion, practice doing, and teach others. Now, lecture and reading from textbooks are two of the most common types of teaching used in education. Yet, unfortunately, those are the two least effective ways for someone to retain the content of what is being taught. Of the three active ways of learning, discussion, practice doing, and teaching each other, it could be a great start to encourage dialogue in the classroom while teaching. Now, before you jump into elaborate explanations of the algorithm at hand, have the students talk about it a bit and think about the questions. The concept is called "What do you notice?" and then "What do you wonder?" It was originally developed in a post from 2018 written by May, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Mathematics at Denison University. The concept is to present students with an idea, which could be in the form of a drawing, a diagram, graphical presentation, image, anything you think of, a video clip, a sentence written on the blackboard, etc. And ask students what they notice about it. Now, after students have explored the possibilities, then they are asked what they wonder about it. And May said about this, "It provides opportunities to discuss what is still unknown and puts all students on an equal ground. Everyone can wonder about something." Because there are no wrong answers for either of these questions, all students can participate in the activity and their thoughts may develop through the discussion. The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, NCTM, has embraced this concept wholeheartedly and even developed 2 cartoon characters to support it. And that's snail for notice, slow down and look, and an owl for wonder, the thinking. The encouragement they give the students is something like this. Explore the world with these 2 friends, discovering that math is all around them. Notice and wonder provide fun and engaging mathematics prompts to spark the sense of curiosity that leads students to understand that math is everywhere. Now, this type of cooperative learning is not new. Dr. Spencer Kagan has already developed these ideas further and published about it since 2018, and together with one of the trainers of the Kagan strategies introduced the essential 5. There are many more, but okay. First one is Rally Robin. They're called really nicely timed pair share, round robin, rally coach, and stand up, hand up, pair up. Beautiful names, and I won't go into the details of all of them, but the timed pair share, which is popular and sometimes also referred to as think pair share, is pretty close to what we now refer to as what do you notice, what do you wonder. In pairs, students share with a partner for a predetermined short time while the partner listens, and then they switch roles. Now, this could be very well combined with the questions of notice and wonder. It's a simple yet effective way of teaching, and the children will retain more of the messages, and you have broken the monologue and moved on to dialogue. And dialogue between peers may still be easier to understand for them and recall than adult talk, how much we try to say things clearly and concisely. Now, this development can be boosted by working across subjects and the coordination of such in the teacher's lounge. Starting to see the cooperation between teachers and forming a team with teachers, tutors, and parents will allow this enhanced learning to bloom throughout the school population and also prepare students for their required contributions later in society, where teams expect synchronized approaches to optimize outcomes. We all need to become team workers. The requirements of the workplace today are so much different than decades ago or even an age ago. And remember, some of our instruction was actually based in the Industrial Revolution in the UK. And teamwork and dialogue are essential. Yet we often get too focused on finishing that annual curriculum to be able to have the students experience their role in exploring and developing in a team environment. The implementation of methods like this need to be research-based. Now, a wonderful idea from a very creative teacher may well work in their class, but what we want is to develop methods that will be working everywhere and provide consistently between years, over the years of education. Okay, then parents and staff will be more amicable to cooperate with the introduction of a new method than when they see this demonstrated only how this has worked for one particular class or one particular teacher. And now they want to introduce it for all classes. Okay, springs to mind here the wonderful initiative of Reggio Emilia in northern Italy, where parents built upon the curiosity of pre-K and kindergarten kids and provided them with a learning environment where they could play, explore, create, and ask questions. And the interest of the students was built into the activities. For example, while on a class outing, standing on a bridge, a child noticed a little twig falling in the water on one side of the bridge and appearing at the other side. Excitement all over. They all wanted to try this, wondering how this happened. Well, long story short, it turned into a river project. And the sandpit had little dolls, animals, trees, model houses, bridges, etc. The kids counted pebbles, learned names of animals, plants, and trees, made drawings, and listened to storybooks with rivers. Then in the 80s and 90s, Project Zero, Frameworks for Early Childhood Education, was developed by Howard Gardner, David Feldman, and Maria Krzyzewski. They designed learning activities that incorporated multiple intelligences and assessed kids with more than just the pen and paper tests. It grew into Project Spectrum, where first graders were introduced to a wide range of learning areas, and they got an opportunity to explore all the available materials in the 8 domains. David Lazier developed 8 ways of teaching, basically using the student's strength to teach a topic from an area of weakness. So a history buff may learn addition and subtraction by making a timeline and finding the difference, comparing it with a number line. A musically oriented child can use rhythm to learn fractions. Arts and drawing can be linked with area and geometry in general. And origami paper, I can tell you, works really well to learn fractions. In the early 2000s, Robert Marzano, with Miss Pickering and Miss Pollock, published Classroom Instruction That Works, with researched strategies for increasing student achievement. And there in that book is a whole chapter on cooperative learning, dialogue par excellence. Then, feedback can be just that, sometimes demoralizing written grade on a test paper. But way more instructional is talking about how a student got to the answer, and if there would be different ways to do it. And if not yet complete or correct, then how to mend it. Now it becomes formative and is a real contribution to the learning trajectory. Now, I encourage you to sit down with other teachers and brainstorm about the options that work for your group of students. And staying with math, as an example of this approach, we can outline a possible synchronized curriculum that stretches across a variety of topics. We can select tasks that allow us to work on solutions aimed at challenging the advanced students, while scaffolding the learning for the students carrying the red lantern. For example, using the math tasks designed by Professor Joe Bowler at Stanford. Think about a square 10 by 10 feet pool around which you want a lining with square tiles. How do we figure out how many 1 foot square tiles we need to order? And it's not 4 times 10. So give students the opportunity to come up with their own solution. It can easily be done with manipulatives or with a drawing, and several different calculations can be proposed or written by the more advanced students. Now, this is just one example from a whole series of books with engaging tasks per grade called Mindset Mathematics, Visualizing and Investigating Big Ideas. Further, when working on patterns and series, students can build their own growing or shrinking models one after the other, or use the wonderful collection of visual patterns gathered by Ms. Fawn Wen, a math teacher and blogger in California who won several accolades and is no stranger at NCTM. Then, puzzles and games are other materials that spark discussion and engaged learning in math without the regular fear of getting it wrong or having a low grade. So, in conclusion, I hope I have sparked your enthusiasm for dialogue in education. Please shoot me an email if you like to continue this conversation, and thank you so much for your attention.